Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching in the world. My name is Sean Driver, and this is part 4 of Why Do We Hate Ya? And this time up, Swindon Town. So, what's it going to be? Welcome to the Red Horn. If you've been following along in this series, this is now the 4th installment of us getting to know the teams in League 2, understanding who do we hate, why do we hate them, and this being Swindon Town, well, this is a team that there's not a lot to it, kind of neutral. It's a young team. We don't have a geographical rivalry with them. We've not even played 40 games against them in our history. There's just not a lot there, and because it's a young team, trying to get the stats. If you've seen the previous 3 versions of this, you see I go through the footy stats, I compare the percentiles of where they're strong, where they're weak. But this team is so young that those stats just aren't really there in complete fashion to be able to do that analysis. So what I'm going to ask you to do, follow along, subscribe to the video, contribute, make comments. I'm intending to actually make this a live recording and play it so there will be an opportunity to chat along with it as we go through and before it goes out to the mob and the masses. So we'll see if that improves the analytics, if there's people who join for the ride. It'll also preview before the game. If you haven't been to the watch party, come on and join in. We watch along with every Wrexham game. Me, a couple other guests. So far it's been Brendan who's been helping out with everything. We're now up to, we're getting about 60 consecutive, 69 continuous viewers. While we go through that, we're getting well over 1,000 impressions, getting close to 1,500 during the matches. It's a lot of fun. You get an opportunity to chat, contribute, put your 2 cents in as to what's happening on the game. So follow along, join the watch party, subscribe, come up with your recommendations. I'm back from holidays, which is part of the reason why this is going to be shorter as well. So let's get into it. Swindon Town FC, also known as the Robins. Its location in Swindon, Wiltshire. Sort of if you're to draw a map, it's parallel to London and Newport, kind of right in the middle. Population of 183,638, and they play in a stadium called the County Ground, which has been around for a while, 1892, has a capacity of 15,547. And last year, 9,068 was their average attendance at home, which placed them 3rd. So a team with a lot of support. Distance away from the race course, 157 miles. That's 253 kilometers. If you're taking the drive from the race course, that's 2 hours and 45 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll spin the Google Earth map, and here you go. You can see that distance leading right to sort of the center of England down towards London and Newport. Center longitudinally, not latitudinally. Yes, that's what I meant to say. Turnover, £6,410,650. And so that's actually a relatively good turnover. Their wage rate, not spending to that amount, it's hard to get the exact numbers because not all contracts are reported. But this is not a team that's blasting off a lot of money. And that'll come up when I end up talking about the manager. The Robins historically formed in 1879. They were elected into the EFL in 1920. And they remained in the 3rd tier essentially for about 43 years. After that, there was a brief stint in the 2nd tier in the mid-60s. They also had a stint in the 2nd tier in 1970s. And their pinnacle was one season in the Premier League, 1993-94. And then since then, they've sort of been on the decline, relegated, and since 2000, 2001, sort of bounced around between League 1 and League 2. There's their kit sponsor, My Permit, which is as I understand it, a parking lot app. They've got 2 jerseys that are out right now. Throw them up right here. You've got the home red and white, and that makes sense given their logo. What doesn't make sense and is confusing to me is where the blue and gold came from. I can understand with a 3rd jersey making it creative, but you kind of, I thought, always want a brand such that you've got similar looking jerseys to your crest, some sort of connection. Blue and gold has been used occasionally in the past when you go through their kits, but not all of the time. I will say that I am a little bit biased, and I adore their jerseys from 2007, 2008. Not only are they the best as far as relating to their crest, and that you get colors that are actually in their crest, in their jerseys, but that sponsor with that maple leaf, it just kind of draws my attention as a Canadian, so that's a good jersey. But the rest of them sort of been a fail throughout, and these ones, I don't get the branding. You have a red and gold crest, you got a blue and gold jersey. It just doesn't connect to me. Anyway, bookie odds have them finishing 10th, so we're looking at a middle third club. Their performance, they had their first game of the season postponed, and so they've had a draw against Crewe Alexandra, and then they had a win away against the Forest Green Rovers. In that game, there was a red card, and Swindon Town benefited from that with an injury time goal, 94th minute, in order to pull the 3 points out. So Forest Green Rovers expected to be one of the weaker teams. Yes, they're playing them on the road, but they needed the red card to get there. So you would think that this is a game that we should be looking to take 3 points from again and start to build as we go forward for the season. So let's hope that that happens, but you've always got to play the game, right? Last match that we had with them, well, we did have a League Cup match, November 28, 2009. As it comes to the performances in the league, competitions in the league, the last time that we met with them was January 13, 2007. That is a whopping 6,062 days ago, or if you're doing the math, 17 years and 6 months. That was a year Swindon Town pulled out the victory, and also they secured promotion that year, finishing third in League Two and advancing. That was a season that we finished 19th. As far as connections to Wrexham, Mullen played 40 games, scoring 6 goals for Swindon Town in 2017, 2018, when Swindon Town finished 9th in League Two. And then Ben Tozer started his career in 2007, 2008, just with a cup of coffee. He had 2 appearances in League One. An interesting connection. Mendy plays with the Robins. Khan is from Gambia. He plays on the national team, had his recent call-up. And so there is a connection. That's probably the most significant connection as between the two teams, is that they are not a lot of teams that are going to have Gambian internationals. And there are 2 competing in League Two in Mendy and Khan. Khan has been injured. I'll go through some of that. It is anticipated that he's one of the players that's expected to be back. Last season, Swindon Town finished 10th. They started strong without a win. And that's not a streak of that length is going to hamper your ability to get promotion or get one of those playoff spots. And to compound matters and to make it even worse, they went with a streak of 8 games between March and April, or in March and April, without a win. And during that stretch of 8 games, they had 5 losses in total. So last season, if it's indicative of things, a streaky team that put some wins together but had long lapses where they were struggling to eke out any points. The most interesting part of the rivalry, and if there is a rivalry as to why we hate them, is potentially looking at Michael Flynn. And if you would have talked to me a month ago, I would have had a much different opinion on how things were. But there was a clarification that sort of came out, whether it was intentional or just fortuitous. I'll leave that for you to decide. But I do have the audio of a clip that was made about 3 weeks ago, and just going to listen to that now.
A lot of League Two clubs are spending a lot of money this year, and if they carry on doing that, they won't be around for many more years to come, because they are way over expending what they actually bring through, whether it's a wealthy owner coming in and topping it up or not. The bottom line is they won't be able to keep those figures up over the long term. We're in a place now where we're picking up from the past, and we're doing things the right way, an affordable way, and not being gung-ho or, just throwing money at things that we don't need to do. So that's probably all you're going to get out of me on that one.
So it's an odd sort of discussion piece from Michael Flynn that came out in around about July 21st. And during that interview, he suggested, as you just heard, that Swindon Town is not gung-ho and throwing around money like other teams are in League Two. And he suggested that those teams were doing it wrong. And that it was not something that Swindon Town was entertaining, that they were building a prudent, he doesn't use the word prudent, but building a prudent model by which their wage rate was correlated to their turnover and the revenue that came in. And there were thoughts that one of the teams that they were referencing in that was Wrexham. Subsequent messages that came out, and during a recent interview in just the last couple of days, he stated that when it came to Wrexham, that in his words, Wrexham has, in quotes, the best model he's seen because of the whole positivity, the commercial element, what they're doing in the community. It'd be amazing if every club could do it, and I've got nothing but compliments to say about Rob and Ryan. So I don't know if that's a backtrack from his previous statement. I don't know if that's a clarification point, but to me it makes sense. I mean, when I look at Wrexham AFC and part of the brilliance that goes on behind the scenes, it's not just Rob and Ryan as Hollywood. They're not two people who are throwing a bunch of money at this. They're running the club based on its turnover. They're running the club and spending on the wage rate depending on what their assets are. Now, certainly their assets, their turnover, their revenue is driven by their success, driven by the sponsorship that they're able to secure, driven by the excitement and the coverage and the media and all that comes along with it. But that's what the SCMP or the financial fair play rules encourage. Is if you're a club that goes out and drives revenue, then you should be permitted to spend such revenue. That makes sense. And so when it comes to a model, that backtrack from Michael Flynn, or that statement from Michael Flynn, makes absolutely perfect sense. So a month ago, I would have said, rivalry, pin that one up on the bulletin board in the locker room and we'll see what happens to it. But as it sits now, it sounds like he was speaking of other clubs who don't have that turnover and who are still spending at a high rate, and that risk that comes with it. And it's exactly that sort of behavior that is in the government's football report, suggesting that football had to get away from, was that gamble of spending beyond a club's means in order to achieve the successes and the revenue that comes with moving up the pyramid. It's what financial fair play is supposed to discourage, and it's happening here. So as to the team roster, they've essentially had a consistent roster, but it is young. Their goalkeeper, they've got two of them. One of them's 20, he hasn't played yet. The other one's 21, and he's played both games so far. They've got Hutton at 24. Blake Tracy is one of the old guard at 27. McEachran, 22. Young, 22. Kemp, 24. Brewitt, 26. Genesini, 21, Godwin Malif, 23. You get the hint here that there are an exceptional number of young players trying to get their feet wet in League Two, get that experience. And so trying to break things down is going to be hard. They did have 4 players out of the lineup from earlier on, and they're anticipated to be back at least in some capacity for the game against Wrexham. That's Khan, who we just talked about, who didn't play in game 2, or who played in game 1 but was not on the bench for the last game. That's Wakeling, who played in game 1 but was not on the bench in the last game, and Hepburn, Murphy, and Shade, who, as I understand, haven't played this year. So super young across the board. Their oldest forward is 27, and 60% of their forwards are 24 and under. Their oldest midfielder, 27, and 60% of their remaining midfielders are 23 and under, and they have one veteran defender in Charlie Austin. He's also their captain, and the rest of their defenders are 24 or under. So you'll see you're likely going to get a team with pace, maybe a team that's a little technically inclined, but maybe as far as it becomes with team play and understanding each other, that there's some gaps, some lapses that hopefully we're going to be able to take advantage of. And that's really it when it comes to Swindon Town. Not going to go through all the analytics because they're just not there. So what have we been doing? Comparing this to a North American squad. So here's the deal. Take your favorite team and then take an out of conference or an out of division team that you just have no interest in watching the game and getting involved. For the Vancouver Canucks, that's my hockey team. That'd be what? The Carolina Hurricanes, maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets. For the Minnesota Vikings, that's potentially taking on the LA Rams or the Indianapolis Colts. Just no real rivalry going on. That's who Swindon Town is to me. And if you're going to compare them to a food, I guess it's a marshmallow. Nothing to it. Nobody really wants marshmallow. Nobody really hates if they have it around. It's just sort of present. And so congratulations, Swindon Town, on existing. You are not hated. And we're going to wrap that up. We're going to put this out right away because it's post-midnight my time and I've got to wake up for a 7 o'clock game. So subscribe, join the watch party if you see this, and we'll see you next time.